Have you ever noticed how the night becomes the place where your mind finally finds time to worry, as if all day it stayed polite and busy, and then the moment you lie down, it starts opening invisible drawers, unfinished conversations, awkward moments, fears about tomorrow, the quiet pressure to be better, faster, stronger, until you're staring into the dark and thinking, why can't I just sleep like other people? And if that's you tonight, if your chest feels a little tight, if your thoughts keep looping like a song you didn't choose, I want you to do one small thing before we begin. Let your shoulders drop by a millimeter, just a tiny release, and take one slow breath out, longer than the breath in, as if you're gently fogging a window with warmth. Now imagine this. You're walking at night beside a river, and the river isn't loud. It doesn't argue. It doesn't explain itself. It simply moves, dark and steady, reflecting a few stars like quiet promises. You can hear it in the background like a slow, constant breathing, and something in your body recognizes that rhythm, because your body remembers how to be calm even when your mind forgets. Have you ever felt that? Like your body wants peace, but your mind keeps dragging it back into noise? Like you can feel a softer life underneath your tension, but you don't know how to reach it? As you walk, you pass little scenes that feel familiar, as if the night is showing you your own life without judgment. A window with a dim light behind it, someone inside reading, someone else inside scrolling, someone else inside replaying a day they can't change. A street corner where you once stood, waiting for a message that never came. A bus stop where you once promised yourself, tomorrow I'll start over. And then tomorrow arrived with the same old anxiety. And maybe you recognize yourself in those scenes. Maybe you've tried all kinds of tricks, counting, distracting, pushing thoughts away, only to realize the harder you push, the louder they become. So let me ask you a question, honestly. When your mind spins at night, do you fight it like an enemy? Or do you treat it like a tired friend who doesn't know how to rest? Up ahead, there's a small temple by the riverbank. Not grand, not bright, not dramatic, just wood, shadow, and a warm glow at the entrance, like candlelight keeping watch for anyone who arrives carrying too much. You step inside, and the air is cool and clean, and the light is soft enough that nothing feels sharp. No harsh colors, no distractions, just calm. Candles sit low along the floor, their flames steady, like they've learned patience. And in the center sits a monk, Buddha, not as a statue, but as a serene human teacher, still as a mountain, eyes half closed, face gentle, hands resting as if he has nowhere else to be. You sit down across from him, and before you can explain yourself, before you can list your worries and justify them, he speaks quietly, like someone who has heard the same suffering in 1,000 different voices. Your mind is tired, he says, not because you are broken, but because you have been carrying what cannot be carried. And you feel that land in you, because isn't that the truth? The mind tries to carry the future like a heavy suitcase. It tries to carry other people's opinions. It tries to carry perfection. It tries to carry control. It tries to carry the impossible responsibility of making sure nothing goes wrong. So let me ask you another question. What have you been carrying this week that was never meant to be carried at night? A conversation you can't redo? A mistake you already learned from? A fear that hasn't even happened? A responsibility that belongs to someone else? If you can, name it silently. Just one thing. And don't fix it. Don't solve it. Just acknowledge it. The way you would acknowledge a stone in your hand. Buddha looks at you kindly, And his kindness is not sentimental. It is clear, like water. There are two kinds of suffering, he says. The first is what life brings. The second is what you add by resisting what is already here. He pauses, and the pause feels like space opening in your chest. Tonight, he continues, we will not solve your whole life. Tonight we set down one stone. One stone. Not the mountain, not the entire year. One stone. And suddenly, your nervous system relaxes a little, because part of your anxiety is the pressure of impossible change. You don't need to become a perfect person tonight. You don't need to defeat your mind. You only need to set down one stone. He teaches you the first step, and it's so simple it almost feels too small to matter, but small is where real change begins. Breathe in, he says, and notice that the breath arrives without you forcing it. You inhale softly. Breathe out, he says, and let the out-breath be longer than the in-breath. You exhale slowly, as if your body is melting into the floor. He watches you the way a teacher watches a child learning to walk, patient, not judging. Again, he says, inhale, exhale longer. Inhale, exhale longer. Now, while you keep that slow rhythm, he asks you to soften one place in your body. Not everything, just one place. Where do you hold tension without noticing? In your jaw, your shoulders, your stomach, your hands? Choose one. If it's your jaw, let your teeth separate slightly. If it's your shoulders, let them drop like you're setting down a bag you forgot you were carrying. If it's your stomach, let it be soft. No armor, just breath. And here's the strange thing. When you soften one small place, the mind gets a new message. It hears, the danger is not here. It hears, we can stand down. Because the mind has been acting like a guard dog, and sometimes the guard dog doesn't need a lecture. It needs the sound of a safe home. Buddha speaks again, and his voice is quiet enough to feel like it's coming from inside you. Peace does not require permission from the future, he says. You have been waiting for the future to approve your rest. And you realize how true that is. You've been waiting to finish everything before you allow yourself peace. You've been waiting to be certain. You've been waiting to feel confident. You've been waiting to become someone else. But the future is endless. It never stops presenting new conditions. If peace depends on the future, peace never arrives. So tonight, Buddha offers you a new way. He says, rest is not a reward, rest is a practice. And then he asks you something that might feel surprising. When your mind worries, do not ask, how do I stop this? Ask, what is my mind trying to protect? Because worry is often a misguided form of love. It's love for your life, twisted into control. It's love for your safety, twisted into prediction. It's love for being okay, twisted into endless thinking. So what is your mind trying to protect tonight? Your reputation, your relationship, your future, your sense of control, your fear of making the wrong decision? If you can't answer, that's okay. Just notice the question. Let it float gently, like a leaf on the river. Buddha lifts his hand and gestures toward the river outside. Look, he says, the river moves. It does not ask permission. It does not blame itself for yesterday's water. It does not panic about tomorrow's rain. It simply flows. He turns back to you. Your thoughts are like the river, he says. If you try to grab them, you drown. If you let them pass, you remain on the shore. So tonight, we practice staying on the shore, not forcing silence, not wrestling your mind, just staying on the shore. I want you to try one gentle phrase with the breath, like a key you can use whenever the mind gets loud. On the inhale, silently say, I am here. On the exhale, slowly say, I let go. Again, inhale, I am here. Exhale, I let go. Don't demand a feeling. Don't test yourself. Just repeat it like a lullaby. And as you do, you may notice the first stone in your hand becoming lighter. Not gone, not erased, just lighter, because you're no longer squeezing it with your whole nervous system. Buddha watches you with a calm that feels like a warm blanket. Tonight, he says, we begin a new habit. He leans forward slightly, and his voice becomes even softer. Not the habit of perfect sleep, he says, but the habit of gentle returning. Gentle returning, back to breath, back to softness, back to the present. And as the candles flicker low and the river keeps breathing outside, you feel the first hint of it. The possibility that you don't have to win against your mind to rest. You only have to stop fighting long enough to come home. When you hear the word returning, what do you imagine? Do you imagine going back to something you lost? Your calm, your confidence, your old self before anxiety? Or do you imagine returning like you return to a familiar room in your own home, not to fix anything, not to impress anyone, just to sit down and finally breathe? Because the truth is, your peace isn't far away. It's just been covered by speed, covered by noise, covered by the habit of treating every thought as urgent. So let's continue the story. And while you listen, I want you to keep doing one simple thing. Breathe out a little longer than you breathe in. Just a little. Not forced, not dramatic, like you're slowly letting warm air leave a room. In the temple, the candles still glow low along the floor, and Buddha sits with that steady calm that doesn't feel like distance. It feels like safety. He looks at you like he's looking at a tired traveler who has been holding their breath for years. Tell me, he says softly, when you lie down at night, what is the first thought that comes to take your sleep? And maybe you know it. Maybe it's not even a full sentence. Maybe it's a feeling, a tightness, a pressure, the sense that something is unfinished, a fear that tomorrow will be too much, the worry that you'll fail or disappoint someone or fall behind. Or maybe it's a quieter fear. What if I never feel truly peaceful? If you can, name your first night thought silently. Just one. You're not confessing. You're not being judged. You're simply seeing it. Because what you can see, you can hold gently, without becoming it. Buddha nods, as if he already knows. The mind, he says, does not only worry about the future, the mind also worries about the past, because it fears being surprised by the same pain again. He pauses, and you feel something in your body respond, because that's true too. The mind replays old scenes not just to torture you, but to prepare you, to protect you, to say, look, remember this, so it never happens again. But preparation has become a prison, and the prisoner is your sleep. Tonight, Buddha says, we will practice a different protection. He reaches down and picks up a small object from beside him, a smooth stone, dark and round, like something the river has been shaping for years. He places it in his palm and holds it up for you to see. This, he says, is one thought. Just one thought. You almost want to laugh, because one thought doesn't feel like one stone. It feels like 1,000 stones falling down a stairwell. It feels like a storm. It feels like being chased. But Buddha's point is not that your mind is small. His point is that your mind becomes unbearable when you hold every thought like it's a command. He sets the stone in your palm. You feel its cool weight. Now, he says, Hold it tightly. You grip the stone hard. Your fingers tense. Your wrist stiffens. Your forearm tightens. You feel how quickly a small weight becomes a strain when you squeeze it. Hold it like that for a minute, he says, and notice what happens in your body. Your shoulders rise. Your jaw tightens. Your breath becomes shallow. It's not the stone that hurts you. It's the gripping. Then Buddha says, "Now, open your hand." You loosen your fingers. The stone still rests there, but the strain is gone. Your breath deepens. Your shoulders drop. Your body releases. Buddha's voice is calm and clear. This is how you suffer, he says, not because you have thoughts, but because you grip them. This is the teaching of the second night's practice. Not stop thinking, not force silence, but stop gripping. You can have thoughts and still rest, the way you can have a stone in an open palm without pain. So he teaches you the next tool, and this tool is like a small lantern you can carry into any night, the practice of labeling. When a thought comes, he says, do not enter it, label it, then return. He gives you the simplest labels possible, because complex labels wake the mind. He says, planning, remembering, worrying, judging. That's it. You look at him, uncertain. But the thought feels important, you say. Buddha nods. Of course it does, he says. Every thought announces itself like a messenger, but not every messenger carries truth. Some carry fear, some carry habit, some carry the echo of an old alarm. He gestures toward the candlelight. If a moth keeps flying into the flame, he says, it is not because the moth is evil. It is because it is confused. So we guide the moth gently away from the flame, again and again. You feel the softness of that. No punishment, no battle, just guidance. So now, in the story, you practice. A thought rises. Tomorrow I need to. And before it drags you into 100 steps, you label it, planning. Then you return to the breath. Another thought rises. I can't believe I said. And before the scene becomes a movie in your mind, you label it, remembering. Then return. Another thought. What if something goes wrong? Label, worrying. Return. Another thought. I'm so behind. Label, judging. Return. And each time you return, you're not losing. You're training. Buddha watches your face and says something that changes the feeling of this practice completely. The return, he says, is not failure. The return is the path. Because the anxious mind loves to measure. It says, I tried to be calm, and then I thought again, so I'm failing. But Buddha is teaching you that thinking is not failure. Wandering is not failure. The only failure is harshness. The only failure is believing you must be perfect to deserve rest. He leans forward slightly, and his voice becomes more intimate, like he's speaking directly to the tired part of you that has been working too hard. You are not here to defeat the mind, he says. You are here to befriend it. Befriend it, not obey it, not worship it, not fight it. Befriend it. Now Buddha guides you into a small visualization, because the mind loves images, and a wise teacher uses the mind's nature rather than fighting it. Imagine your mind, he says, as a river. You already heard the river outside, and now you let that sound become an inner image. Dark water moving steadily, leaves floating by, a few small branches, an occasional ripple. Each thought is a leaf, Buddha says. When you grip a leaf, you fall into the water. But when you sit on the shore, you can watch the leaves pass. So tonight, when a thought arises, you do not chase it, you do not grab it, you do not push it away. You sit on the shore, you let the leaf float, And now, I want you, listening to this, to try it too. Just for a few breaths. If you notice a thought, label it gently. Planning, remembering, worrying, judging. Then return to the breath. One long exhale, one soft jaw, one small release in the shoulders. Do you feel that? Even a tiny bit? The way the mind becomes less sticky when you stop treating every thought like a command? Buddha smiles faintly, as if he can sense your nervous system understanding. Then he teaches you something else, something that often keeps people awake: the hunger for certainty. Your mind says, he explains, if I can just figure it out, I can relax. He pauses. But there will always be more to figure out. The mind can build an endless staircase and call it safety. This is why you can't think your way into peace. Thinking is useful in daylight. But at night, thinking becomes a wheel. The mind keeps turning because it believes the turning will arrive at certainty. But certainty is not where peace lives. Peace lives in trust. Peace lives in presence. So Buddha gives you a phrase to use when the mind begs for certainty. A short phrase, a strong phrase, a phrase that stops the staircase from growing in the dark. He says, not now. Not now doesn't mean never. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means night is not the time to build the whole future. Night is the time to rest. So when the mind says, figure it out, you answer gently, not now. When the mind says, solve it, not now. When the mind says, rehearse it, not now. And you return, breath, softness, sure. Buddha's voice remains warm. If something truly needs action, he says, you can do it in the morning with clear eyes. But if it needs no action, then worrying is only pain. You hear that, and part of you relaxes because you realize you've been doing work that doesn't change anything. Worry is labor without harvest. It exhausts the body and brings no fruit. And now, in the temple, Buddha asks you to do the most important thing of this second part, to offer yourself kindness for having a mind like this. Place a hand on your chest, he says, and speak to yourself like you would speak to a tired child. You do it, and your hand is warm. The simple contact grounds you. And you whisper, slowly, as if the words are falling like soft snow. May I be safe. May I be calm. May I be at ease. Then Buddha adds one more line, a line that turns the whole practice into gentleness instead of pressure. May my mind learn to rest. May my mind learn to rest. Because you're not demanding instant silence. You're not demanding perfect sleep. You're letting the mind learn, the way a frightened animal learns trust. Slowly, patiently, by returning to safety again and again. The candles flicker low. The river continues outside. The stone in your palm rests in an open hand. And you begin to understand the secret of this night. The mind is not your enemy. It is a tired protector. And a tired protector doesn't need to be conquered. It needs to be soothed. Before we go to the final gate, I want you to check in with yourself, honestly. How many nights have you been punishing your own mind for being a mind? How many times have you whispered, "What's wrong with me?" when nothing was wrong except that you were human, carrying too much, gripping too hard, trying to control the river in the dark? If you're listening right now, and you feel even a little softer than you did at the beginning, even if the thoughts still come, even if you're not asleep yet, that softness is already the path working. In the temple, the candles burn low, and the air stays cool and still. Buddha sits in front of you like a calm shoreline. You can feel the river outside breathing through the night, steady and indifferent to your worries, and you begin to realize something quietly powerful. The world is not demanding that you solve everything tonight. Only your anxious mind is demanding that, and the anxious mind is tired. Buddha looks at you and says, "Now we practice the last release." His voice is soft, but it carries weight, the kind of weight that doesn't press you down, but anchors you. The last release, he says, is releasing the idea that you must be someone else to deserve peace. You feel a sudden tenderness in your chest because you recognize that hidden belief. You've been trying to become better in a way that felt like a chase. Better at everything. Better at thinking. Better at controlling emotions. Better at being liked. Better at not making mistakes. Better at not being tired. And even your spiritual practice, even your attempt to calm down, sometimes became another performance, another way to prove you are worthy of rest. Buddha doesn't scold you. He simply names the trap. If you turn peace into a prize, he says, you will always feel one step away from it. Then he gestures toward your hands. Look, he says, your hands already know. When you grip, you suffer. When you open, you rest. So he asks you to open your hands again, palms soft, fingers relaxed, the simplest posture in the world. Open hands are not weakness. Open hands are wisdom. They are the body saying, I am not fighting the night. And now Buddha offers you the simplest, most sleep-friendly practice of all. The practice that doesn't require effort, doesn't require achievement, doesn't require concentration like a tight rope. It only requires allowing. He calls it letting the body sleep you. You have been trying to sleep, he says, as if sleep were an enemy you must capture. But sleep is not captured. Sleep arrives when you stop holding the door shut. Then he asks you questions. Slow questions, like lanterns moving through the mind. Questions meant to soften you deeper. Can you allow your forehead to be smooth? He asks. Not force it. Allow it. If you can, let the forehead soften, as if warm water is flowing over it. Can you allow your eyes to rest? He asks. Let the tiny muscles around the eyes loosen. Let the gaze inside go dark and quiet. Can you allow the tongue to rest? He asks. Because the tongue often presses against the roof of the mouth when you're anxious, like you're holding words you never said. Can you allow the shoulders to melt? He asks. As if you're setting down a heavy bag you forgot you were carrying. Can you allow the belly to be safe? He asks. Not tight, not armored, just soft enough to breathe. As you listen, you notice something. The questions are doing the work. Your body is following them like a child following a gentle voice in the dark. The nervous system starts to trust. And then Buddha says something that feels like the final key turning in the lock. You do not need to stop thoughts, he says. You only need to stop obeying them. Stop obeying them. Because thoughts are not laws. They're weather. They're leaves. They're stones that can rest in an open palm. Now, he asks you to bring up one thought, the one that usually hooks you hardest at night. Maybe it's the thought about tomorrow. Maybe it's the thought about being behind. Maybe it's the thought about something going wrong. Whatever it is, let it rise gently, like a leaf floating into view. And now, instead of arguing with it, instead of pushing it away, Buddha asks you to do three things. First, label it, planning, remembering, worrying, judging. Second, bow to it, inwardly, not because it's right, but because it's trying to protect you, a tired protector. You don't have to hate it. You don't have to worship it. You can acknowledge it. Third, release it back to the river, not with force, with a breath out. You do it. Thought arises. Label, worrying. Breath out. Release. And you realize you can do this 1,000 times without drama, because the practice is not a one-time victory. It is a gentle returning. Buddha then teaches you the night vow, and it's not a vow of achievement. It's a vow of kindness, a vow you can keep even when you are tired. He says, "Tonight, I will not harm myself with my mind." That's it. That's the vow. Not, "Tonight I will sleep perfectly." Not, "Tonight I will be calm forever." Not, "Tonight I will fix my whole life." Just, "Tonight I will not harm myself with my mind." Say it inwardly once, slowly, and feel how it changes the tone of the night. Tonight, I will not harm myself with my mind. Because so much of insomnia is self-harm through thought, replaying, criticizing, predicting disaster, building impossible standards, punishing yourself for being human. Buddha is asking you to stop that tonight. And stopping does not require force. It requires a decision, a direction. Now he offers you a short, ancient-feeling verse, like a mantra you can repeat without effort, a lullaby for the nervous system. Breath by breath, I soften. Thought by thought, I release. Night by night, I return, and my heart learns peace. Repeat it slowly in your mind, once, maybe twice, then let it fade. You don't have to cling to the words. The words are a boat to cross the river, not a house to live in. The candles flicker. The temple feels warmer. The river outside keeps moving, and it does not demand that you solve it. It simply moves. Buddha looks at you with the calm of someone who knows the truth of impermanence, and he gives you one final teaching to carry beyond tonight, a teaching that turns the whole story into a fresh start you can repeat any day. Whenever you are lost, he says, return in 3 steps: breath, body, kindness. Breath, 1 slow inhale, 1 longer exhale. Body, soften 1 place. Kindness, 1 gentle line. May I be at ease. That's the whole path in 3 steps. You can do it in bed. You can do it in a crowded room. You can do it in a difficult conversation. You can do it at 3 a.m. when your mind tries to pull you into old storms. Now, the temple begins to dim even further, as if the story itself is closing its eyes. Buddha doesn't rush you out. He simply sits, and his stillness becomes permission. So you take your last long exhale of this journey. You soften the jaw. You let the shoulders sink. You let the belly be safe. You keep your hands open. And you whisper, slowly, like placing a warm blanket over the mind. May I be safe. May I be calm. May I be at ease. May my mind learn to rest. Then one last line, the line that ends the fight. Not now, not now to planning, not now to replaying, not now to proving, not now to punishment, not now. And as you repeat that gently, the river keeps breathing outside, the candles keep flickering low, and your body remembers what it has always known beneath the noise, that sleep is not something you win. Sleep is something you allow, and tonight, you are finally allowing it. Breath by breath, softness by softness, one open hand at a time, until the mind drifts like a leaf on dark water, quiet and safe, carried without effort into rest.